happening now. We'd like to welcome our viewers from across North America and around the world. This is the EdTech Situation Room, episode 271 for September the 21st, 2022. My name is Wes Fryer. I'm coming to you from Matthews, North Carolina, just southeast of Charlotte, where we are now happy residents and getting a little bit more settled in. I am a media literacy and robotics middle school teacher at Providence Day School. And I'm joined, as always, by Dr. Jason Neiffer, who is always establishing incredible credibility with us all as an audience, with the Montana flag in the background and a very formidable stack of paper analog books right there. So, Dr. Neiffer, how goes the reading on the book stack?
Well, I will say that there's no way I will get through even the books I own now in my natural life, and I buy enough of them that it doesn't really matter. But, I will say that I can't remember what the exact quotation was, but buying books that you don't intend on reading right away is like an investment in not being bored in the future. So I'm going to take it for that. And I will say that although I have a Kindle and I love my Kindle very much, and I have an old-fashioned e-ink Kindle that is pretty great, I still love a good paper book too. So I also enjoy a record every once in a while too, an LP, if you will. But yes, that's me. And hey, I am Jason Neiffer. I'm the executive director of the Montana Digital Academy, which is Montana State Virtual School located on the beautiful University of Montana campus. And for the first time in 3 weeks, I am back in Missoula, Montana. So I'm excited to be here. The smoke is gone from Missoula, Montana, and the temperatures have been chilling out a little bit. So I am very excited by the notion that we may get a real fall here. And Montana is a four-season state. It's one of the best things about living in Big Sky Country, and I've been a little concerned in the last couple of years because of the number of times when a really hot summer basically just converted to winter and we lost our fall. But that's not the case here. So super excited and really looking forward to the changing seasons.
And for those of you not watching the video version and listening to the audio, which I don't know how you do that because somebody hasn't published those in a while. Not only is the smoke on, the hair is gone. So have you had the experience of feeling lightheaded and just like a little disoriented with the mane being, sort of shorn from your body?
Well, my natural posture is to be confused. So that's something that I have to own on a daily basis. But yeah, it's been interesting. And I have to say, I was really leery about cutting it off because I'd grown it for so long. It was 2.5 years to almost 3 years of, pretty stunning hair growth. And I have to say, I'm happy I cut it off. So I've been it is way grayer than pre-cut. In fact, I have a photo from it was February 29th, leap year day in 2020 when I last cut my hair, and noticeably grayer, which of course I'm going to blame on COVID. But yeah, wow, big difference. But yeah, I'm very happy with my cut, and I've been meeting like crazy. My travel schedule started back up again, and it's just exciting to. I'm still wearing a mask everywhere, and in fact, I was at a superintendent, some superintendent meetings the last couple of days with the wonderful school ministers in Montana group, and only one in the whole time area that's wearing a mask. And that's, I felt a little self-conscious about that when it first happened, but as I've mentioned numerous times, I'm immunocompromised, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. So that's the way it's going to have to be for me for at least a little while longer.
Well, the Apple Watch won't do this, but somehow you should have some kind of smart wearable gear that will track your gray hairs, because it could be that you put all those on after assuming the mantle of leadership there at the Digital Academy. So who knows?
Could be.
I don't think somebody's created that kind of a smart device. So any developers out there ready for a good idea to run with, tracking gray hair, graphing it. I'm sure somebody's interested in that. But
yep, totally.
What are we going to talk about tonight besides hair and weather?
Well, I know the people are listening for weather hair updates, but the EdTech Situation Room is about tech. And here we are, a month into school for a lot of places across the United States, 3 weeks into school for a lot of schools in Montana. And there's a lot of tech news. And what we do here at the EdTech Situation Room is take a look at the headlines and we shoot them through the EduPrism in hopes of helping you find some clarity in all the changes that are happening around the world. And tonight we have kind of our standard categories mostly: Google, YouTube, social media, the tech correction, some platform news, hardware news, software news, AI, which is getting some increasingly interesting articles around the world. And we'll end tonight with our Geeks of the Week, which is our chance to share something a little geeky that's going on in our lives. And I have a whole story to go with mine, so we'll want to spend a little bit extra time doing that. So, Dr. Fryer, is there any particular place you would like to start tonight?
I'd love for you actually to start, if you would, with the YouTube whatever feature or option that it's going to have for ad-free YouTube with Google. That just sounds fantastic. Although I guess it's going to be within apps. But you want to do that one? I saw that one prior to the show.
Yeah, so a couple articles here, both from Chrome Unboxed and also The Verge, that YouTube is launching an ad-free video player for education, and it's around creators and institutions that use the platform for educational content. And YouTube says it's launching, this is from The Verge, an embeddable video player for education apps that removes ads, external links, and recommendations so viewers can avoid distractions. And I believe that it's either almost already or it's going to be launched in tools like Edpuzzle, Google Classroom, the Purdue Global School, and Purdue University, and I think start to expand over time. But in my mind, this really does do a lot to help YouTube cement its reputation as maybe the ultimate e-learning tool available.
Well, just today, I've been teaching in my computer apps class using Google Sites, and we're going to build portfolio websites. But as we're talking about videos, we were on laptops today, and we learned about uBlock Origin, and I just lamented the fact that on the iPad, there is no uBlock Origin, Chrome extension or function. So I think that's really exciting. And that's also, the article says Google Classroom is going to be one of the supported applications. So that's fantastic to be able to share a video and then have assurance that we're not going to see a bunch of ads within the Google Classroom environment. That is absolutely fantastic and huge. I mean, I'm not going to leap for joy and dance a dance right now, but I'm tempted to, because that's so good. So,
well, and I would also add,
George, really quick. We're just Peggy just check.
Okay, hey Peggy, good to see you. And actually, it's been a couple weeks, so great to see you with us tonight. And you don't have to apologize for being late. When you start, we start. So all good. So one other thing about YouTube, I have, and I know Dr. Fryer now is also a YouTube Premium subscriber, so he'll know what I'm talking about tonight. But one of the things that I will tell you has really been a very impactful for me is that I'm a YouTube Premium subscriber. I pay $9.99 a month. In my personal account, there are no advertisements ever, right? They can't take out, like, if someone's dropping a promo code or doing an in-video ad that's natural to the video, but in every other way possible, the ads go away. And I have to say, it not only is amazing from the standpoint of using it for education, it's made YouTube a part of my regular media diet because I don't get turned off by the ads. And there are some indications that YouTube is going to keep pumping more and more ads into this because it helps their bottom line. And as people become more desensitized to ads, that's a real concern and issue. But I can't, if you've never experienced a YouTube freeless environment, an ad-free YouTube environment, that $9.99, even for a single month, and I'm pretty sure you could probably get a 30-day free trial or something if you search around.
It's more than that, I think, because I've got mine going now. I mentioned on the show a couple weeks ago, I think, that something had pushed me over the edge. And so, I'm on premium, and I don't think I'm going to be charged. Yes, I have a free trial until December the 8th. So I think I have so is that how much is that? 3 months? I think it's like a 3-month free trial. So I need to start watching more YouTube on Apple TV. Because I had mentioned at one point on the show, I'd bought a Raspberry Pi and done a whole bunch of geeky stuff that's not really my bag to try to install this thing called Pi-hole, which is for the Raspberry Pi, and it's to try and block all your ads. But it's just the YouTube ad folks are so savvy that basically it can't be done, and it makes me wonder how uBlock Origin manages to do it.
Yeah,
but it is. It's a wonderful thing to escape the ads. And I mean, let's face it, folks, some things are worth paying for. Dr. Neiffer and I both subscribe to several journalism publications, several newspapers, and some other things. I know you support some folks on Patreon. These are things I think we need to normalize. The creator economy is really important. It's made vibrant by the fact that creators can make money, and some of that does come from ad revenue from YouTube, but it also comes from people sponsoring with Patreon and things like that. So I think all those things are important, and it's good for us to think about that kind of shift too. Obviously, everybody and their dog wants a subscription so that you're going to have that recurring revenue. But it is a different day when you could just be paying $1 to your favorite podcast. And no, you can't do that yet for the EdTech Situation Room. I guess you kind of can, because we have a Substack we haven't published for about a month and a half. But anyway, we're not dabbling in the monetization at this point, but we are supporting creators, and I think all of that is really good. And that's a good reminder that since I'm paying for my YouTube premium subscription, I need to make sure I'm enjoying it, or at least I'm enjoying my free trial before I would have to start paying in December.
Totally. Well, and then let me make one other comment about new features. This is more in detail on Chrome Unboxed on September 13th. But the other announcement is that there will be some new features available inside of YouTube, including the ability to stop and pause videos and ask quiz questions, and other ways that you can put things kind of overlay over the video. And also you can create courses in YouTube now that you can actually sell. So it's a kind of a content creator way to be able to sell those pieces. And I can tell you, as a distance learning guy myself, I help run Montana State Virtual School and have been doing so really well, going back 13 years, 12 years, 13 years this January. Oh my. And what I can tell you is that there's pretty persuasive research that says that, watching a video straight up for 10, 15, 20 minutes is not particularly useful from a memory standpoint. It's not an ideal way to learn. It doesn't mean you can't. It just means it's not ideal. And certainly if you're not super engrossed in the subject, that's one of the issues. But one of the ways you can help increase is interacting with the material somehow by asking things like simple quiz questions to see if your understanding is there. Now, there are amazing third-party tools that already do this. Edpuzzle is an example of that, which is now going to be ad-free with the YouTube piece. But also, there's open source software. One of them is H5P, which is a wonderful open source project that creates digital learning interactives. And you can actually put quiz overlays over YouTube videos. And even if someone gets it wrong, send them back to the point where it discusses the right answer to that particular question. You can do really cool stuff. So exciting that Google's headed in this direction, but this is not new functionality and features by any stretch of the imagination. I am excited, however, to see that Google and YouTube are going down this direction.
It is a bit of a Sherlocking of some function
Yes.
by Google, and we've mentioned that on the show before, where Apple integrated in Sherlock some features that folks had developed as third-party solutions, and now it became built in. I think that's incredibly exciting, and I'm actually wanting, on my own time, of course, to develop a series of online courses. I was looking at the platform Teachable, and I still think I might utilize that. It's a really pretty slick-looking platform. I'll talk a little bit about this in my Geek of the Week, but I'm going to do an iPad digital storytelling workshop here in about a month, and I'm really looking forward to sort of re-energizing my digital storytelling advocacy, and there's a number of things that are just ripe for online courses. But I'm excited to hear about that with YouTube. I think, again, I'm a playing with media guy, so it's fun to play with media and experiment. And I think that, as teachers and educators, I remember Tim Wilson, who's an Apple Distinguished Educator. I heard him years ago, probably around 2007, talk about how at that time the economy wasn't really set up for a teacher sort of put out their shingle, so to speak, like if he's a chemistry teacher, and then just do your shtick. But, there's more and more opportunities and more platforms that are more mature and robust to be able to do that kind of thing. And I'm excited. I've seen Tony Vincent, do some different things with online courses that he offers. And the other thing that I'd mentioned in the context of your HP5 and your recommendations is, if you are at all interested in hybrid learning, online learning, blended learning tools, the Moodle Moot that Montana has, and just the expertise of Jason and Mike Augustinelli alone, but the others involved in the Digital Media Academy and NCCE, it's absolutely incredible. And I'm not doing this to just blow sunshine Jason's way here. Seriously, the amount of experience and the wisdom, as well as the geeky tools that are in use at the Digital Academy, and the way that they've curated them and filtered them, it's just, I don't know who else is, because you go to whatever I forget the acronym, but the online school consortium, and you're into that community far more than I am. But the little bit of dabbling and learning that I've done there has been phenomenal. And actually, we need to get the Moodle Moot date, Jason, because that would sure be a cool trip for us to make next summer, assuming we could do that with school schedules.
Well, and I'm not ready to quite announce specifics yet, but there may be a complimentary conference. Complimentary as in like it complements the moot the beginning of that week in Missoula, related to our Ed Ready work. So stay tuned. But it's a wonderful, it's the best small conference I've ever been to by far. Actually, I have my preferences about bigger conferences, but the Mountain Moot is pretty great, and it's run by maybe the nicest people on earth. So that also helps quite a bit as well.
And reportedly, the breweries and all that are pretty. That's a good element. I've only experienced the online version of that, so I would love to experience the face-to-face version with all the networking options that come with face-to-face learning too.
Absolutely.
Okay, so why don't I pick up, this is kind of an interesting one, and I thought I had put this in a few weeks ago, and anyway, I didn't. This is an Atlantic article, and this is like almost a year old. It's by a guy named Ian Bogost, and it's called "People Aren't Meant to Talk This Much." And one of the things that I'll point out about this article, I don't know if you've noticed this, Jason, but some articles will have a headline, and then the actual title that's coded in the HTML title tag is different. Yeah. And so, and that's an SEO, a search engine optimization thing, I guess. So the coded, title of the article is "Fix Facebook by Making It More Like Google+." This is a fascinating article. If you listen to it, I think I did this weekend. It was like maybe 13 minutes or something to listen to it on Pocket, which I sometimes do. But the real premise here is, and I don't think there's any way this can happen, but he basically wants Facebook to be re-engineered and all the other social media platforms, so we don't subject ourselves and our and our minds and unleash all the dynamics that happen when you have a potentially unlimited global audience. I'm reminded of Clay Shirky and Here Comes Everyone, and he talks about communication that's one to a defined number, which is what email is, because you have to have people's addresses. It can be forwarded on, but still there's a number of addresses that are there, versus a social media post on a network like Twitter or YouTube or Facebook, where you have no idea. Again, assuming that you don't put restrictions on the sharing of it, like friends only or something. And so he says that Google Plus was being designed in a very, very smart way. And I've never read about this before, with something called Dunbar's number. And there was a British psychologist, Robin Dunbar, 30 years ago, that talked about the being a limit to how many folks you could have meaningful relationships with. And basically that's kind of, and then it also, he doesn't use the phrase, but context collapse is an important thing because, here on the EdTech Situation Room, we're going to talk mainly educational technology and tech news. Jason and I could put on other hats and talk barbecue. We could talk, social studies, history. Sometimes these things bleed over, but there's context collapse, and so sometimes that makes communication challenging. Because when you go to a classroom, you kind of know the context that you're in. And anyway, social media and the internet's not that way. So I found it to be a fascinating article, not necessarily a practical one saying, hey, this is what the tech correction, this is what we need to do. But, the constraints around sharing are interesting. Twitter, I think we shared this article. Aren't they piloting doing away with the 240 character limit? They've also talked about piloting the edit, like letting you edit tweets, which is really, those are the kind of basics that I kind of wish they wouldn't mess with, because it sort of defines the platform and the communication. But it's a worthwhile article. It brings up some things that I hadn't thought of before. But I think it just kind of laments this whole idea that we have influencers. And as someone who's written books and who wants to write more books, that's one of the things you want to do as an author, right? Is reach people. And so to me, it doesn't sound like something that a free society would do, as far as having regulation to say, well, all platforms are going to have to take into consideration Dunbar's number when they design them. But there is a new platform, and I'll have to get the name from my daughter. It tells you when to share each day. Do you know what this is? Having teenage, well, we have one teenager and then a 22-year-old in the house still. It's I'll find out what it is, but anyway, it's very popular with the girls, and they wherever you are, basically, when it tells you, you have to share, and that's the only time you share all day long. So it's just some different twist on live streaming, I guess, or it's not streaming, but live sharing. So we're going to continue to see iteration in the social media space with different constraints and things like that. And I'd never heard of that. So have you heard of Dunbar's number before? And do you miss Google Plus, Jason? Do you wish that your life was filled with Google Plus circles, as it might have been once upon a time?
Wes, I have so many thoughts here that I'm scared this is going to turn into Google Plus weekly here. But a couple things. The first one is that I really like Google Plus, but in fact, I ran into the slides the other day. I gave a presentation at NCCE a couple months after Google Plus was announced, and I said, it is stunningly good, but too complex. And I thought the only thing that would survive from Google Plus is Hangouts, which, as it turns out, I was absolutely correct, right? And that it would go away. But that notion of being able to confine the where your posts go is absolutely brilliant, and it also handles several concerns that I have about my own social media use. The reality is, and Wes probably knows this from interacting with me on Facebook, Facebook is about people for me and not about my work. I sometimes talk about, like, I got a promotion recently. I talked about that on Facebook. I post photos from work because I like to amuse myself that way, but it's not really a work platform for me. And although a lot of my colleagues are friends of mine on there, I don't talk about work. I don't work. It's just not my thing to talk about the details of work. But on Twitter, it's really all work for me. And in fact, I try to stay away from politics on Twitter for no other reason than I have a look at what our work colleagues on there with a diversity of views, that I don't want them or need them to read those things. And but at the same time, there's content that I clearly like sharing with both. A good example of this is I posted a photo last week after I got my haircut, and maybe an unfortunately large number were vested in the haircut conversation with me. Maybe that says something bad about me, but the bottom line is that I ended up sharing that photo on both personal and professional locations. And this notion of, this is for my family, this is for my family and friends, this is for my friends, family, and work, this is only for work, I think is pretty brilliant. And you could create some relatively complex pieces too to make that happen. But the thing you mentioned there, which I think is pretty interesting, is the idea of Dunbar's number. And it's not listed on their Wikipedia page, but there was a social network that was maybe based in the Dunbar's number. It was called Path. And I happen to know about Path in part because one of their co-founders, David Morin, is a Capitol High School graduate of lovely Capitol High School. Great guy, smart guy, really thoughtful entrepreneur. He was an early Facebook employee. But he helped develop this path notion, which limited you initially to 50 friends, and then the magic number here, Dunbar's number, is 150. And they said at the time, I believe, that you would do that based on more quality social interaction. If you're forced to limit your friends to a smaller amount, it's going to make you more personal in the way you share and create richer connections. And eventually, Path. Well, he originally was given a pretty healthy offer from Google, I believe, and then it was eventually purchased by another company and then shut down 3 years later. So sadly, not around anymore. But I think that's something that, to be honest, it makes a lot of sense. And I think this article about limiting, I mean, part of it would be tough for me right now is the fact that I have 900 friends on Facebook. It's a variety of folks. I generally don't befriend people as much as I accept friend invitations on there. And if I loosely know them, I like sharing information. I like being connected with people on there, but I think that this makes an awful lot of sense. And so this notion of limiting your social time to make it richer or more interactive or less ugh. But I also really like the headline here, that people aren't meant to talk this much. I have a former student that said that she pretty regularly takes Facebook breaks, and says that in the last time she left Facebook, she said that, I just don't think everyone was meant to know what everyone else was thinking all the time. And I think there's something to that, right? That, if you think about what has happened in the last 20 years in the United States, you now can access what a vast number of people are thinking in any given time. And we've created the internet of me, right? That you can publish to your heart's content. Wes and I have both spent a healthy amount of our careers trying to encourage people to say that there's a lot of power in that, and we should be empowering our students to tell their stories in this way. And I'm excited to hear what's coming later tonight in the Geek of the Week to tease your announcement later, Dr. Fryer. But the bottom line is that it also comes at a huge risk, right? And it goes back to that, with great power comes great responsibility, which is both a FDR thing and a Spider-Man thing. So, that's something that we need to be very mindful of. So again, I had a lot of comments here. I knew I would prattle on. So thank you for listening to me talk on about this information.
Folks are getting what they're paying for here. Or
They are.
Maybe even more. So that's one of the nice things about this podcast and this format. We're gathered here, and we're going to talk about articles, and sometimes we're going to rant, and other times we'll philosophize. So anyway, that definitely fit in sort of the category of a kind of a philosophy article a little bit that touched on tech. But there's some other ones like that, and I'll have to find the other one that's just super long. It's a super long read, but it's one of these that really, anyway, starts to touch on some of the core ideas about sharing and the internet, and I find those to be, intriguing, and they also have relevance as we talk about the tech correction. And, how possibly we might want to structure our regulations around technology. Dr. Neiffer, are you using some fancy camera? Because it seems to have on its own out. What's going on?
Yeah, it actually mimics a new iPad OS feature, but it's trying to keep my head in the center of the frame.
Yeah. What is it?
This is that XSplit VCam that I use to do virtual backgrounds. But in this case, it is just attempting to keep my head in frame. So
have you shared that as a Geek of the Week?
I have in the past, but I can certainly put the link back in. I believe if you search around enough, you can get a lifetime license for like $25. But
okay, so it's software only.
Yeah, that's doing that. It's pretty cool. And in my case, obviously, in fact, I didn't even bother to get my camera pointed correctly because I started talking and I distracted myself. So hold on, coming back, frozen, awkwardly.
Tell me the name of it.
Here it comes. There we go. XSplit VCam is the name of the software.
Is this the one that was only Windows?
No, it's now on Mac too.
Okay. Wow. All right. Very good. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll drop the link in. What else would you like to talk about tonight, sir? We are halfway through the show.
Well, let's see. Let's go ahead and do. There's a variety of interesting Google things that are going on right now. The first one I want to talk about is from a Verge article from today. Although this news is a couple of weeks old, there is a new Chromebook in town, and it's called Framework. And the Framework is a company that's working directly with Google. They have a partnership together. And they have something called the Framework Laptop Chromebook Edition. And what Framework is a user upgradable laptop that allows you to switch parts in and out to upgrade the device. And many parts of the Framework laptop are usable, user customizable, and also user serviceable. You can have different kinds of ports, including USB-C, USB-A, micro SD, HDMI, and DisplayPort. You can put on high-speed storage or Ethernet on the device, and you can switch out the battery. You can, I believe, go to different screens. The idea here is that you can choose pretty much all the insides of it, and then be able to customize it to your heart's content. And so I'm enormously interested in this because this means that I can get a high-end processor in a Chromebook for sure, which is really, I think, the difference between Chromebook okay to good and Chromebook good to awesome is that you need to have a lot of RAM and a high-end processor. Doesn't need to be an i7, although it sure helps, but the typical i3 processor available in 2022 is pretty great. But the fact that it's user customizable and upgradable, it's just really awesome to me, and it's a smart decision on Google's part to work with a company that's being innovative in this way.
This is unprecedented because before this, hasn't every single Chromebook just been like, okay, it's dead. I mean, not dead now, but it's not supported anymore. Just toss it and get something else. I mean, have you heard of upgradable Chromebook?
No. The very early Chromebooks were able to, like, many of them had user upgradable RAM and storage, right? And that was useful. The Acer C720 days, which was kind of the first mass appeal Chromebook, and in fact, I still have one of those. With an i3 chip in it. They sold a very small number that had an i3 chip in there, and I upgraded with Chrome OS Flex, and it actually could be a daily driver for me. It's good enough. It's a little 11-inch Chromebook. It's a great size. It's a great daily carry. But that has gone away, and part of the reason why is because it's a lot cheaper to manufacture everything on the same board. So RAM is soldered in, storage is soldered in, and that also means you can't upgrade any of those things. And particularly, RAM makes a huge difference. 4 gigabytes is not enough anymore, even if you're just a typical user. 8, 16, even 32, both are quite reasonable. And you may not be able to every day, all the time, notice the subtleties, but if you're in any way doing an intensive process on your machine, more RAM is going to make it feel a lot faster and a lot snappier. So super awesome. The kit sells right now for $1,000. That is a little on the stiff side for me. And in fact, every premium Chromebook I've ever owned, I've just waited to buy it used or on sale, since the high-end Chromebooks tend to end up selling cheaper in the aftermarket. But I am very interested in this, and it may get my support.
Super cool. All right, what else?
Well, let's see here. Speaking of Chromebooks, Chrome Unbox reported the very sad news last week that the Pixel team over at Google has been shuttered. And for those of you not aware of the history of these particular laptops, this is the Chromebook Pixel, which is not quite a daily driver for me, but I like this platform quite a bit. But Google, going back to the first days of Chromebooks, always had some Chromebook for sale. There's been a couple
did you get that at a pawn shop too or something?
Yes, as a matter of fact. In fact, I've picked up, well, I know my used Chromebooks, let's put it that way. But I've owned every edition of these except the most recent one, and I've loved them. And they were working on one. In fact, they mentioned this summer at Google I/O that the Chromebook team was working on a new piece of Google-based hardware, and every one of their hardware experiments in the Chromebook world has been killer. But there's been a round of layoffs at Google. They shut down several projects that weren't meeting their strategic needs or whatever corporate speak for wasn't going to make them enough money for the effort. So that was one of them. So goodbye, Pixelbook. Great set of reference Chromebooks from our friends at Google.
Please don't read into this that I'm giving any kind of investing advice or financial advice, because I am not a financial advisor. But I had heard Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, talk a few months ago about slowdowns and anticipated recession. I mean, nobody that I know of has a perfect crystal ball to know exactly what's going to happen. But you may have heard the news today about the hike again in interest rates, and the Fed chair talking about they're just going to be aggressive, and Wall Street was going crazy. I don't know. With Google doing a cutback, that seems like a pretty big deal, because Google had seemed to realize that Apple's control of both the software and the hardware was a key part of the secret sauce of why Apple's able to do such amazing things. So the fact that they've dumped their own Chromebook, we've seen Google, of course, abandon all kinds of different projects, and that's just sort of the churn of the Google innovation engine. But interesting that may be part of what they're needing to do, or perceiving that they need to do in these economic times. So Peggy's asking a question, Jason. Can you try out the laptops you've gotten to make sure they work at the pawn shop before you?
Yeah, I have. I've probably bought 2 or 3 there. One I flipped just because a couple days later, someone I knew was looking for a cheap laptop, and so I refurbished it for her and sold it. And then otherwise, yeah, that's generally what I do. And it's for things like, especially when you're buying a used Chromebook, you want to make sure it's not locked into someone's network, right? Like, I've actually purchased 2 Chromebooks on eBay before that one of them was actually owned by Google. It was you had to sign into Google Google.com to get to that. So that was clearly one that was taken from a Google employee, or maybe sold by a Google employee. And then I also purchased another one on eBay that was owned by a school district. And I actually contacted the school district to let them know that I purchased it online, and they actually had me ship it to them. And then they wrote me a check for double what I paid for it, because they were looking to investigate where that particular Chromebook had gone. So,
wow.
And I ended up not taking the money from them because I just appreciated what they wanted to do. But yeah, that's one of the things I've done with particularly with Chromebooks online.
Wow. Okay. Well, I know that my wife is yearning for her Chromebook days. She has a very old Windows PC that her new public school district has given her, and I've thought about, I don't know if I'll play with this, just to see if we could take Chromium, or what's the newer Chromium that's the project you can run off the USB?
Chrome OS Flex.
Yes, Chrome OS Flex. And so just seeing, hey, could we boot off of that? Because everything she's doing is in the browser. But anyway, that probably wouldn't work because they don't give out the Wi-Fi passwords. There is no guest account. So
yeah,
that probably wouldn't work at school. But anyway, Chrome is solid. And the continued development that we see in operating systems and platforms, it's just so important, because the security environment is so hostile. We continue to just see more and more threats. And I still haven't, I think did I tell my story about my phishing stuff on the show? Yeah, I did. I mean, hey, I didn't fall for it today, but today I got a text message, sent to 20 people. And it was, I thought this was some pretty decent social engineering. It said, your payment for September was received. Thanks. This is our little reward for you. And then here's the link. Well, guess what? I'm not clicking on that. So anyway, tons of danger around us, ladies and gentlemen, and we need secure operating systems. So yay, Google, keep pushing the envelope, as well as Apple and others, to make sure. Oh, my Google speaker is now defining pushing the envelope, because it thought it said her name. So, okay. Let's see. I think I actually did put in a couple articles. This one was an interesting one. I put this under social media. This is from Futurism yesterday. Mark Zuckerberg is in big trouble. And this one probably could, I don't know where exactly this fits, but Zuckerberg is evidently not as wise a CEO as he probably needs to be to have the net worth that he had once. And the subtitle here is he's lost a staggering amount of money so far this year. He has lost his fortune $71 billion in the last year. So now he only has 55.9 billion. And he's just the 20th richest person in the world. At one point, he was, I think, number 3 with twice the net worth. And the article talks about the pivot that Facebook has had to Meta. And there's really not anything that's gotten people I know of super excited yet. This is like the Ready Player One future that, hey, we're all going to be living sizable portions of our lives in a virtual reality space. The article mentions that Facebook or Meta, via their Oculus platform, is about to release a next generation headset. I think that they did have the Oculus 2, the Oculus 2 Quest or something. And so this will be the 3rd generation. But, pretty interesting. TikTok is continuing to be ascendant. I've got another article, I think, about TikTok to mention, but Facebook, is a huge influence, a huge force. They're going to be a huge factor in our elections, which I think are about 7 weeks away in the United States. I'm sure we're going to be talking about a number of articles related to the weaponization of social media, the manipulation of folks, the inability of Facebook and other platforms to deal with, just the sheer volume of content and the, moderation and policing challenges that it poses. But that's a staggering amount of money to lose. Has anybody that we know of ever lost that much money in a year? I don't think that they have. I mean, I know that's on paper, but anyway, there's plenty of room for innovation, and we need to continue. Part of the reason we want to, help students understand the landscape of information and technology and social media is hopefully so they can navigate it well for themselves personally, but also so that we can have innovators that are going to be able to create new platforms, reinvent things. And we have a series of entrepreneurs that come in and talk to our seniors in an entrepreneurial class. And so I've gotten to hear a couple founders talk, and I heard one this week who talked about founders syndrome, I think is what it's called. And it's where you really don't have the skills to continue to take the company to the next level. You've built something, you've started it, but sometimes people can't step back. The way that Zuckerberg, I guess, structured Facebook, and I'm not a financial guru about this, but he did it in such a way that he maintains the majority ownership and a vast amount of stock. But anyway, that's a heck of a lot of money to lose. So it may remind you of your own Dogecoin investments, Dr. Neiffer.
Yeah. Which sadly, well, again, even if I lose everything, I've lost $100. But I will say that my account, which was once worth a fair about a coin, is down to just $500 in value. So my retirement bet is sadly not going to pay off for me. So
good thing you have other options. You've diversified.
Yes. I've been savvily investing elsewhere.
Excellent. All right. What else would you like to talk about?
Well, let's see here.
We can stick with more Google stuff. I didn't mean to derail your Google stuff.
Yeah, sure. Let me get through a couple of these things. This is just a quick one that I will say I want to mention because Dr. Fryer and I were talking about cell phones pre-show. That Google's working on a small screen Pixel, and unfortunately, small screen isn't as small as some people may hope or want. But I wanted to mention that I do think that Apple would probably end up doing very well with a small screen phone, because I think there's something to the small screen phone experience. And one of the reasons why I stayed on Android as long as I did is because there were a number of experiments in small screen phones. This is probably my favorite one. It's this is a Palm device that was sold by Verizon. It wasn't really a phone. You had to use it you had to use it in context of a phone, so it was like a companion device. But if this were a phone size, I would carry this around with me as a daily driver. I've got headphones to listen to things. I've got a tablet if I want to watch something long term. But for what I generally do on a phone, a small phone would probably do it just fine for me. So I just wanted to, I know that Tim Cook is a regular listener of the show, is a friend of the show. So Tim, buddy, pal, if you could go ahead and make the 3.2 inch iPhone with all the pizzazz that the larger device has, I'd appreciate it, sir.
It is kind of confusing getting new cases, because actually I did have to get a new case last night for my purple 3-camera 14 here. So getting $400 for my XR from T-Mobile was double what I could have gotten on Swappa, and I gave in to the temptation. So I will be reporting in. Actually, I can do a quick one here. We didn't have an Apple category, but I put it under hardware. This is an Ars Technica article from today. i14 and 14 Pro review. A picture is worth 1,000 words. I'm not in love with this, but are you familiar with the dynamic island on the i4 on the
I've seen the coverage.
Whatever. I mean, it's just not a full knot. The dynamic island. What an example of coming up with some real salesy name. But yeah, I've just started to play a little bit with the cameras, but great phone. And the point that article makes, and this is also exciting to me personally for getting it, because the XR is a few generations back, not too horribly back. It's not like an iPhone 7 or something, but it says that we're still calling these smartphones, and we almost should call them smart cameras, because there's not just a ton of additional innovation. I mean, the SOS feature that you can get on this thing is pretty amazing in terms of being able to be in the middle of nowhere, pointed at satellites. It tells you where to point it, and you can call for help if you're in the middle of Montana away from cell phone coverage. I think that's pretty innovative. Not that that's going to probably be a scenario that's going to affect a lot of us. It might Dr. Neiffer, because he sometimes is trekking across the great state of Montana. But I'm excited to really explore those iPhone features. Peggy has requested the Canva article, Jason. So would you mind talking about that one?
Yeah, not at all. Canva, which is probably if I were if I were stuck on a desert island with only 5 web-based tools, the Canva would probably be one of my tools. But Canva announced at Canva Create, which was a big worldwide event last week. Sadly, I have neither had the time to watch the archive or show up live, even though I intended to. But they are releasing additional applications to go with their existing pretty amazing image platform. And Canva is calling it the Visual Work Suite. And so now they're, in a lot of ways, it's just rebranding some of the similar tools, but you can do essentially 7 things now on Canva. They have what they call Canva Docs, which is like Google Docs, but really with more of a design language. Canva Websites, which is an alternative to Sites, Wix, and Weebly. Canva Whiteboards, which is a collaborative whiteboard that you can work on in real time with others across the internet. And then, all the other tools that already existed: social media posts, presentations, video editing, and then printing services. And the bottom line is that it continues to be, I think, one of the most powerful tools available on the internet. And I don't care what you do in regards to being a teacher. If you're a teacher, administrator, it's worth your time. Free pro accounts for teachers by signing in with your school domain. Your school will have to sign up for that to make it happen. But once you're in there, you get free access to pro. And there are 60 million photos in their image library, which is a professional image library number of photos. And so it can also be a wonderful place for art as well. So yeah, Canva, super sweet.
Do you have to buy student licenses for students?
No, free for and in fact, I believe that it hooks right into Office 365 and also Google Classroom as well. And you can use it as a platform for doing things like completing documents worksheet style. So just an incredible set of tools. And I will say I was an early Canva user. I feel very good that I spotted the quality of this tool. But even though I have access to the pro version at work, I actually pay them $10 a month because I find that much value in the tool.
Well, when you hear folks you respect give endorsements that passionate and persuasive, like you got to pay attention to that. My friend Cindy Danner-Kuhn, who I think is, well, yeah, she's just stepped down at Kansas State University from doing all their EdTech pre-service teacher courses, has been a Canva fan for a long time, and I had barely dabbled in it, but it's interesting. The school where I am now has done, I think, a really great yeoman's job of trying to capture all of the different kinds of digital curriculum and platforms, not really curriculum in terms of textbooks, but different digital tools, and especially subscription based, but even free, that the school is using to let people know. A lot of different schools can have different folks, from the library people to the technology department to sometimes just departments on their own. Last year, we had licensed WeVideo, and I didn't learn about that until like December or something like that, in the semester, and it was for kids that I was teaching. So anyway, sometimes there's just not great communication around these things, but it's super interesting that there's a lot of factors to consider as far as what you're going to support, because yes, it may be free, but that can mean some overhead for the IT department and for others, especially when it comes to managing accounts and resetting passwords and enabling things and stuff like that. So those are calculations that organizations have to make and individuals have to make based on their personal bandwidth and their perception of what they're going to be able to do and what their priorities are. But definitely a strong endorsement, completely unpaid and unsponsored, ladies and gentlemen. Canva, contrary to popular opinion, is not funding Jason and my, barbecue adventures or any other extracurriculars that we have. So that is a unbiased and uncompensated plug for the platform. I think we got time for a few more tools or a few more articles.
Sure.
Let me do this one real quick. This is
Okay.
interesting. I put this under tech correction, and this is a gift link from September 19th. Pentagon opens sweeping review of clandestine psychological operations. This is super interesting because, I don't know, this one's probably not. When I get these links that are just too long, gosh, I've got to use a URL shortener to get it shortened. We talk about the weaponization of social media and what different countries and folks are doing to basically manipulate people. Well, it turns out that the U.S. government and the U.S. military specifically has done a lot, and some of this is coming to light. And the gist of the article is that there's folks who want to get to the bottom of it. So there's a lot of fake accounts that end up getting taken down. The article says that Colin Cowell, I've never heard of him, but he's the Undersecretary for Defense for Policy, instructed that military commands that engage in psychological operations online provide a full accounting of their activities by next month to the White House. Now, this is interesting because I'm sure a lot of this stuff is covert, and they're not exactly excited to, just reveal all this. Maybe they'll have classified briefings about some of this. It always happens with spycraft and, different kinds of intelligence communities, both military and non-military, that there's a lot of things that happen on each side of, let's just say each side of the Cold War, or whatever we're going to call today's conflict with Russia and China as well. But, elections are seven weeks away, folks. There's all kinds of things that are going on right now. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be some things that are going to be, oh, look at this, look what we've discovered. And, it's going to be, sadly, I think, a pretty chaotic and tumultuous time with respect to the use of technology. And this isn't just all going to be foreign agents doing things to the United States. We have offensive cyber capabilities as well. And I think some of those cyber capabilities take the form of disinformation campaigns. There's a long history of that. So anyway, found that article pretty interesting.
Let's see here. Here's one. It's actually the opposite article of what I just shared in regards to Canva. This is from The Verge on September 14th. Zoom is reportedly working on calendar and email tools to take on Office and Google. And Zoom is so interesting to me because it feels like they should still be doing just fine after the pandemic is over with. And I get that their services are dramatically less in demand than they were, say, 1.5 years ago, but I guess I don't know a whole lot of people, especially in the distance learning industry, that aren't using Zoom. And in fact, a lot of people abandon other video conferencing protocols in favor of Zoom. So I just don't know the user or the use case for where you'd want Zoom and email and calendar from someone other than Google and Microsoft. Like, I guess that's really the only one I would choose in 99% of scenarios. But I guess good on Zoom for trying to stay relevant, and please stay open, because I do think that you're the best video conferencing tool available.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. I haven't managed to get that link shorter, so maybe I'll have to click on that one, which, by the way, you can get to our links by going to edtechsr.com/links. What about the Getty banning images?
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. So this is from The Verge. Let's see, it's today that Getty has banned AI-generated content over fears of legal challenges. And this is a follow-up from our episode last week where we talked about that there are several engines available now. They're pretty processor intensive, so you can download it to an M1 Mac, but it does recommend 16 gigs of RAM, which tells you it's a pretty serious tool that
stable diffusion, I think.
Right, stable diffusion, right? Well, Getty is saying that at this point they're going to ban any AI generated content over fears of legal challenges, and one of the reasons why is because a lot of the generators, you may be able to create unique images with them, but in a lot of cases they steal images from open databases in order to create the image. And so for those that weren't with us last week when we first started digging through these tool sets, what it essentially allows you to do is take a search query, and it will generate an image based on that search query. So, for example, I put Montana State Capitol in the winter, and it generated a picture of the Montana State Capitol with some kind of fake but still realistic enough to dazzle me pieces of snow on the image. And the one The Verge is talking about is actually I think that they try to search Donald Trump in jail, and it did create an image of Donald Trump in jail, but it used one of the Getty image available on the internet with a watermark on it to make the image. So it's really a violation of their intellectual property. So I just thought that was super interesting. And I think we also reported earlier this summer that an AI generated image had actually become or had actually won an art contest. And there's just a lot of troubling things here, but there seems to be a lot of energy around this image generation as it relates to artificial intelligence.
The articles last week were talking about how amazing it was that if you wanted, because you are like through what would be sort of like a Google search, but a verbal. Oh, great! We're gonna get some dog interaction going here. Moose.
Yeah.
Moose is gonna come talk to your Montana dog. You can mention, guys. No. The show's gonna be over soon. You can mention the name of an artist like or something, drawing, and then that particular artist style is going to be utilized in the drawing that you're looking at, or that is being created by the AI. And so the point that it was making is this is already in some cases perhaps indistinguishable from the actual art of that art. And so there's all kinds of interesting intellectual property, copyright sorts of issues. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. I predict that we are going to see some real controversy leading up to the elections and election season that is going to relate to images that are fabricated or deepfake videos that are created. That technology continues to just grow so quickly, and there are lots of benefits in terms of financial rewards to people who are going to be able to do that in the context of an election. And so I think, sadly, I don't think maybe it's not going on too much of a limb to say that, but I think we're going to be seeing that in the next couple of months. So, well, Dr. Neiffer, I think it is almost been an hour, so we probably should share some Geeks of the Week and then get out of here.
Sure. Well, let me just share a quick one here. There's a longer story that goes behind this, but I think I might even share this one before. But Visible is an alternative phone company that is actually owned by Verizon that sells a plan that's basically $30 a month for unlimited data with unlimited hotspot. And I've played with it on and off over the last couple of years, but they have a new feature that allows you to turn the phone into an eSIM. The card into an eSIM, and iPhone 13 or better have the ability to have both an eSIM and a regular SIM on there for 2 SIMs on the phone. So I have my $30 a month Visible plan in addition to my T-Mobile plan, and it's on Verizon towers, which means it's in a lot more rural areas in Montana. So you can actually create kind of a super phone with eSIMs and allow you to access multiple networks at once. So I just a link to Visible in case you're interested in playing with that. And I'll talk about more in future weeks about how that works.
And since I'm now an iPhone 14 Pro user, I think I remember, can you do multiple eSIMs?
Yes, you can. Phone? Only one can be actively getting data at any given time, although the iPhone will bounce between them if it's necessary. But if you're traveling overseas and you want to get an eSIM, which you could buy at the airport in most countries around the earth, you could just add yet another phone line to your phone and not have to pop the SIM out.
Well, this brings up a challenge, and if anybody knows the answer, you may know the answer. I would love to be able to have a tool that would let me know, okay, for this location where I am right now, like my wife's school especially, where her cell phone coverage is poor. I think everyone has poor coverage. I'd love to know, hey, this is how good T-Mobile's network is. This is how good AT&T is. This is how good Verizon is in terms of comparing, because we're in a new location, and I'm having okay coverage, but totally. I don't know that there's a tool you can get to do that. But what you're describing here would kind of come close, because at least you can tell whether the two sell eSIM, tower companies, whatever. Those two are how they stack up and compare. All right, my Geek of the Week. This is really amazing. I set this up tonight, and I just put this picture on Facebook. Smart strip lights. This is called a Govee smart LED strip lights, 50 feet long, $34. Amazing, fully compatible with both the Google Assistant and with Madam A, and just an incredible number of colors and settings, and you can do all these scenes, and oh my gosh, it's amazing. So I set that up tonight in our sunroom, and incredibly, Amazon has same-day shipping, so I ordered that this morning and got it. And then finally, I have rebooted the Story Chasers website. So for 10 years, Story Chasers was a 501c3 nonprofit that I helped lead with several other educators in Oklahoma, and that shut down as a nonprofit in 2019. And the website's actually been offline because it got corrupted in WordPress and whatever. So last night, I just rebuilt the whole thing in Google Sites, and I'm looking forward to doing a workshop that's going to be about iPad digital storytelling here in a little less than a month in a local co-working space. So you can check out www.storychasers.org. I would love to be able to get the mapping to work where the Google site for just storychasers.org resolved, but I've never figured that out, and I don't think you can do that for a Google site. I think it's only you have to have a C name like www or something else. But that's a real geeky question, and we might have a listener that knows the answer to that. So if you do, let me know. Dr. Neiffer, where can folks find you when you are not sharing your knowledge and impressing us with your Montana State flag and mini analog books here on the show?
Best place to find me, Twitter, Tech Savvy Teach. And you, sir?
I am W. Fryer on Twitter. wesfryer.com/after is the best place to find links to follow me. So this has been the EdTech Situation Room. We are a weekly show that meets now at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Mountain. Thank you, Dr. Neiffer, for starting earlier. You can find all of our show notes on edtechsr.com/links. Our shows are automatically archived to both YouTube and Facebook, where Peggy George is joining us live on YouTube, and we're so happy that you joined us, Peggy. Great to have you here. If you can join us live, we'd love for you to, but reach out, let us know feedback for the show. I promise at some point here in the not too distant future, we will again resume publishing small 32 kilobit MP3 audio versions of our show and compressed video versions as well. But I'll just blame that on the move. It's been a little bit crazy, but I'll get back into that cycle. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and remember to stay savvy, stay safe, especially remember to lock down those passwords, and don't respond to those phishing, text messages or emails that you get, because they're getting tricky out there, folks. Take care.
Good night.